Hey everybody, it's a beautiful morning here in Apopka, and I am heading up to a Van Bros house that I met online on the van forums, and they're only like 35 minutes away, which is pretty sweet. So heading over to his place. Since I can't do actual mechanical work on Max, I reached out and he was happy to have me come up for the day. So we're gonna go do the brakes and get the front and back taken care of, do a full flush, change lines, calipers, rotors, drum kit, just like the whole thing. And that's Florida. That's somebody driving on the wrong side of the road. Oh my God, multiple blocks. I should have turned the camera sooner. Oh my God. Well, anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna head up to where he's at and get some work going today, and I'm stoked. I feel like I can feel it, you know, the caliper seized, you know, a little bit of pull to the right, but that inside pad is worn down so much that it's just going. It's fine, apparently. So anyway, yeah, I got to determine hopefully where the clog is, and I hope it's in the lower rubber line. Otherwise, I'm going to have another trip to the store. Anyway, yeah, catch you guys later when we get working on the van. I'm at my friend James's house in Florida and working on my brakes. So looking down, he's got a sweet floor jack that I'm going to be using. I got everything ACDelco this time, and I painted it blue. So I've got my brand new calipers, boom, boom, boom. And I'm also rebuilding my rear brakes. So I've got new shoes, I've got the whole kit, new lines and everything, clips, plenty of brake fluid so I can also flush the system, new wheel cylinders, and I love that blue. It's the engine enamel high heat old Ford blue. I almost didn't get it just because it says old Ford blue, but you know, when you paint it, you can't tell that it says old Ford blue. And obviously, you know, still haven't put the bed stuff in yet, but maybe that'll be later today or tomorrow or something. I got tomorrow off too, and I've still got about 4 hours of homework left, so got to get that going. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this on the center underneath there and jack it up, take both sides off, and dismantle the calipers and pads and rotors. And I got new ACDelco high performance rotors. I gotta get some more PSI in that tire. It's about 7 low, looks like. Anyway, so yeah, we'll get the tires off, get everything out here done, get the new lines set up and ready, and drain the system and flush it through a little bit in the front and the back. But yeah, it should take a couple hours. We'll get it going. All right, so we've got both sides on jack stands, or the whole front end on jack stands. Both tires removed. Starting on the passenger side. This is the one that got real locked up, and you can see the damage from how high the heat got. Everything's scaling off, and there's not even a lip here, barely, because I didn't, you know, they haven't been on here this long. But I think going with the heavy duty rotors was too wide, and then the heavy duty pads also, and even when I was getting it on there initially, it felt like it was quite snug. So I mean, it could be from letting it sit for 2.5 months while I was in Colombia and it not really being driven around at all. So having some rust in there, and then not you know, doing some maintenance right when I got back. Instead, I just started driving again. Sorry, Max. And then having that high heat, definitely could have just locked up the calipers. So I'm going to be replacing these lines anyway. This is all one piece, and I got new clips, new lines. So first thing I'm going to do, take off the fuel line from the back over here, and just looking at it, it looks like it's a 10 millimeter. So gonna try to be a little bit more in depth. I'm still not filming every goddamn step. If you are going to be doing anything this in depth, you should know how to turn a wrench. Also, a socket for a 3/8 Allen is awesome for getting your calipers on and off. I know it's the only thing that is used or that you need this for on this vehicle, but I mean, it's like $4 at AutoZone or wherever you want to get it, and it makes it a lot faster than just using a regular Allen wrench and turning, removing, replacing, turning, removing, replacing. So get a ratchet attachment for your 3/8. It is well worth it for the time saver and just the hassle. And so I got regular normal rotors, just like performance rotors, but aren't like the super extra wide, whatever, heavy duty. And I'll see if I can compare the two to see if they even are a difference with the thickness here. But there's a lot of damage, a lot of dirt, so I'm going to take off the line, let it bleed into my pan a little bit. I'm not removing the cap on the master cylinder yet, and that'll help kind of keep the flow down a little bit, but I'm also not worried if it totally drains out, because that's kind of the plan today anyways, to flush everything. So I'm going to take this line off, move it out of this bracket, but not disconnect it from the hard line up here yet. And then I'll completely take off the caliper, let it drain into the pan, and throw that bitch away. Get the rotor off, and then I'm going to be using brake cleaner and some wipes and just clean off this whole general area with a wire brush and get it all nice and clean looking, so it's not all chunky and dirty. And you can also see from the lift kit, so I've got my 2-inch body pucks under there, and I remounted my all-terrain ball joints. They're not the Moog ones, the Terrain Tough ones, and I can't remember the name of the company right now, but they have been awesome so far. And I remounted them lower, and I also used their Terrain Tough sway bar links, which have been awesome. But everything down here needs a little bit cleaning up. I also redid, we're not going to go into it, I redid the entire front end like a while ago. I wish I would have filmed that for everybody, it would have been great, but I was in a rush. Anyway, so we're gonna get going. Again, I'm gonna take this line off first, let it start bleeding, and remove the caliper so I can get the rotor off and clean up this whole area. And we'll see you when I'm through with that, so you can see what it looks like nice and clean. Okay, so got those down. It's draining a bit. This is seized up, and it's only moving a little bit because the rotor is moving with it. And I don't have any camera stand, so bear with me. Use a rubber mallet. Don't use a hammer, especially if you're trying to save your caliper, but it's just light taps. Top, bottom, top, bottom, until it looks like it's actually going to free up. And I did do this recently when I was inspecting my brakes. I took the calipers off and put them back on, which is why it's coming off a little bit easier, but before it was hella stuck and it sucked. So now this one's off, I'm going to take the caliper off, get the rotor off, and then we'll clean it all up and show it to you what it looks like all nice and clean. And I can't really hold my phone because, you know, brake fluid. So you can see the difference in the pads, where this definitely seized up real quick. This thing will not depress anymore. I've tried clamping it and depressing it, and I just don't know if it even goes any deeper. And you know, they worked really great. These are the power stop calipers, like the Z23 kit or whatever. And I mean, I like the red, but it's more about functionality, and I just don't know where the fault was, so I'm not going to blame anybody. They worked great. They broke in really well. These are like their high performance carbon fiber whatever Z23 or Z26 brake pads that go with the power stop stuff. And I really like their system for breaking stuff in, and I had great brakes. And I think it's really just because it sat for 2.5 months through like the end of the snowy season and into spring, where it's just real wet in Montana. And you can see, oh man, so much scaliness in there, fuck me. You can even see like on the rotor, there's not even a lip here, but it just, like, that's what also sucks, is now I'm wasting money, because, you know, if I had just got back and thought, let's look at the van and see what kind of little maintenance it might need, just because it's been sitting for 2.5 months, but neither here nor there. That's in the past. So we're moving on and getting all new stuff and reminding ourselves every day why we treat Max like the king that he is. All right, let's get moving. I'm gonna start cleaning all this up, spray some brake cleaner, and scrape the ever-living hell out of it. All right, guys, so we got the back and the front. Everything's taken down. It's up on jacks. Got some bleeder bottles up here and some pans down there. We're gonna disconnect the lines there. And then we're just gonna work on pumping and flushing the lines while we maintain good reservoir levels, because a lot of that shit is just way too dark in there. So got another bleeder right there set up. Once I get this wheel off, I'll bring that other pan over here. We'll finish getting the fuel lines all taken apart, or sorry, fuel lines, brake lines all taken apart. And then we're just gonna sit there and monitor our brake fluid levels on the master cylinder. Excuse me, I'm real burpy today. That way we can keep fluid going in as we're pumping and flushing all the gunk and crap out. Pretty stoked, pretty excited, so we're gonna get going on it. Okay, so got the drums off. So now what we're gonna do is I've got the steel lines unscrewed in the back, but I don't want to bend them out of the way to drain everything. So what I like to do is take a picture of the configuration and the springs, because everything's like color coded and individualized, and you can get a real good idea of exactly how it's supposed to be set up, which makes putting it all back together really easy. And so that's my process. Take a picture however you need to do it, and that way you have a map, a guideline to follow for putting everything back together with the new shoes. And I'm also replacing the wheel cylinder right here, which is a good thing also, because my bleeder valve on the back side of that thing is like totally stripped out, and I really need to get that replaced. So I'm gonna get all that taken off after I take my picture on both sides. I'll get that taken apart, so then I can actually hook up the bleeder lines and then flush the brakes, and then I'll get everything hooked back up with the wheel cylinders first, just to get the lines closed off, and then I'll go about putting everything all back together right through here. And yeah, we'll get going on that. Okay, so once you've got everything taken apart, I kind of lay it out the way it looks while it's on, so that way you can set up your new parts to look the same, and it makes it easier when you're putting it on. But I'm going to take off the wheel cylinders now, at least on this side. The other side I was able to get the brake line out so it's able to flush properly. But I'm going to take this off, which is just two 11mm bolts on the back side, just these little guys, and this just kind of wiggles out once you've had it detached from the brake line. But yeah, so then after I get that off, I'm going to spray this down real good, clean it off. There's a lot of brake dust and residue in there, so I'm going to get that all taken care of, and then we'll get back to it. Alright, and so that's it all taken down, and you can see the brake line right there, nice and exposed. I don't have any rubber hose to go over it, so we're just going to flush it where it is. So we're going to do long, steady pumps on the brake while making sure the reservoir never allows air through the lines, by constantly refilling it with some Prestone .3 brake fluid. Yeah, so we're going to get it going and keep pumping until it is good and clear all the way around. Alright, looks like fluid's coming out everywhere, pretty nice and clean. I feel like the pressure is a little weak on this side. Looks like that line is dry, but I have all the other lines open, so because I know for sure that the driver's side is solid, clear fluid in the tube, I'm going to go ahead and put the new rotor, get the caliper on here, new pads, get everything set up all nice, and get it sealed off. I've got new clips and everything for the line, and then once that's nice and sealed off, pump through a little bit more and see if that gives more pressure to the passenger side. Otherwise, I'm going to move back. That's still dripping nice and clear. I gotta take all the springs out of that to rebuild the boots and all that. But once I do that, I'll take the I'll put the wheel cylinders back on these, and then that'll plug up the rest of the system, and then we can go back through pumping through the brakes, and I'll do that one last. And if it does have no actual pumping pressure, then I'll know for sure that it's the metal brake line, and we'll do what we have to do to fix that, whether there's a blockage in there or whatever it might be. So it might be a longer job, like fucking everything, but that's okay. Anyway, yeah, so we're gonna get going on it. I'm gonna start putting stuff back together, and we'll get to that driver's side wheel and I'll show you how it's done. So we've got the new on top of the old, and I just try not to touch the face of it where the pads are gonna be. Now we're just gonna get this nice and lined up. If I can do it one-handed somehow. Yay, I found the bolt. Okay. Alright, and that looks nice and fresh. Super good. So now we're going to get the new caliper set up. It's got new copper rings and everything. So we're going to get that put together and get the caliper mounted, and then get the upper brake or the brake line reattached and get that rubber tube off. So yeah, and periodically remember, check back at your reservoir. Make sure the fluid is well above the holes, because you don't want oxygen to be getting into your system. Yeah, we're gonna keep going. All right, so first caliper is up and mounted. I used a little bit of white lithium grease just on the bolts to get the bolts and the cylinders in there easier. It's not actually like a moving part, so it's not going to affect anything in a negative way. Plus it's a white lithium grease. It's just awesome stuff. Makes it easier to get the bolts in there. Everything lines up real nice. Everything's seated perfectly. These definitely went on a lot smoother even than when I put the power stop ones on. I really feel that the red powder coating was just a little too thick because it didn't give it enough room here to slide. And I kind of had that thought when I was putting them on, but I figured, well, this is how they're coming and it's got to be the way it's supposed to be. And I think it gave it enough resistance on the return from pressure that eventually it just stopped returning from pressure, and it stayed further out and keeping too much pressure on the rotor. And so when I painted these, I intentionally, there's a little bit of blue in there that you can see, but it's just a wee bit of overspray. I didn't intentionally paint the insides of these because I didn't want there to be any extra friction there. So we're gonna see how all that goes, and just gonna get this line hooked up here, mounted through there, and then reconnect it up there. We'll probably actually start from the top. Well, actually no, we'll start from the bottom and work up. That way I don't have to take that clear tube off right away. Anyway, so we're gonna go on that and I'll show you guys that in a second. All right, so we got the new ones on the driver's side, which I was lucky. The hard line threaded perfectly into that rubber line on the very first try. This one was more of a son of a bitch, but it's on there now and it's solid and it's good and it's locked in properly. So front brakes done, ready to put tires back on. I wish, for your sake, I had a camera stand or something so that I could film you or film myself putting the drum kit back together, because it is a finicky piece of work. But I also have the pictures that I need for reference on my phone, so I also can't even if I wanted to. So, you know, anyway. All right, so I'm gonna get started on this, and I'm actually gonna rotate my tires too, because it's about time for that, so I can mark that down for maintenance done. But I hope you guys are having fun. It's been a day. So when you reinstall these wheel cylinders, I prefer to connect the brake line to the cylinder first and get the thread started, since it's on a hard fuel line. So if you're looking at it this way, that sounds perfect. It inserts like that, and I like to get that I like to get that brake line inserted and screwed in there first, and then you can kind of finagle it easier to get these mounting screws placed in. And I'll just do one hand tight and then wiggle it around until I get the other one hand tight, and then I'll get it nice and lined up to where it looks like it's seated properly, and then I'll cinch them both down. And you don't have to crank on these, you know. And once you get those set and nice and secure, then you can go ahead and finish getting that brake line tightened down on those. And again, on the brake line, you don't have to crank those down either. So now this one, now that it's sealed off and the brake line's no longer exposed, now I'm going to do some cleaning on it, get some spray, mostly wiping down. I'm not going to take a brush to it or anything. I'm just going to spray it, wipe it down, and then I'm going to take the other side apart, get this thing, get this wheel cylinder replaced on it immediately. That way my brake lines are almost all closed off again and nothing's dripping, except for that front passenger side. It's still got some bleeding to do, I think, or some flushing, just to make sure that it's not the metal brake line. Yeah, we're going to get to it, and I'm going to dismantle the other side now and get this replaced. All right, so we got all the new springs in there, full new kit, new wheel cylinder, everything's cleaned out, new shoes. Pretty stoked. And it went a lot smoother this time. I've done it a few times now. And flathead freaking screwdriver, small thin rod flathead screwdriver, is one of your best bets and easiest ways to get the ends of all those springs back on where they need to go. And now we're gonna cap it off, dun, 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 with the freaking new, oh, look at that new drum cover. I really like that blue. I think it just turned out awesome. But I'm stoked. I'm gonna get this on. We're not putting the wheels on or anything, so this is just gonna sit here for now. And then when my buddy gets back, he's just making a tool or a part run or something. We're gonna go ahead and finish bleeding the brake lines, and then I'll get all the tires on and rotated, and then I'll be ready to vamoose. So stoked. All right, I got the back driver's side done. Got the new drum cover on it. It actually does go pretty quick. There's all the old parts, not a big deal. So I'm gonna go ahead and do general cleanup until he gets back and get everything ready to go, so we can bleed the new brakes and get, top off the fluid and throw the wheels back on, and then I'm back on the road rolling smooth. Pretty excited. Hey everybody, it's the next morning. We finished the brakes yesterday. Light was failing, so I didn't record the bleeding process. It's easiest with two people. You can do it alone if you've got a constant pressure filler pack kit. I never used one, but it's possible to do it alone. If you're doing it with somebody, I just think that's the best way. It's the way I've always done it. I have them sit in the driver's seat, and I have all the wheels off, and all the valves exposed. And then I'll go around the vehicle one wheel at a time, and we'll do a process where it's 10 nice slow pumps all the way to the floor, and on that 10th pump have them hold it and call out holding, and then you can release the bleeder valve on your calipers or on your drums, or if you've got calipers all around, cool. And air should spurt out. Keep your face away from it because it can definitely shoot at you. And then as soon as the air spurts out, tighten it back, and then have them release, do another 10 pumps, and repeat that process until no air is spurting out and you get a nice solid flow. And they should feel a little bit of pressure relief on the pedal each time you open it up. If not, then you're not getting that return. Anyway, yeah, so that's pretty much it. Brakes are pretty easy. Just don't let any foreign contaminants fall into your master cylinder reservoir while you're doing your brakes. Make sure the fluid always stays above the holes, so as you're going through and stuff's draining or bleeding or whatever, or while you're flushing, just make sure you constantly check it and top it off with some brake fluid, and look up to see what brake fluid is best for your vehicle. I like to use the Prestone .3 brake fluid. Anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. Changing the brakes. Boom. And they are great. No longer pulling to the right when I'm braking. and no longer pulling to the right while I'm driving. So that is top notch. Cheerio. Yeah, anyway, hope everybody's having a great day. I'm moving on to more projects. Ciao.